Console, online. HPG connection, online. Educational module, online. All systems, nominal.
Hello, class, and welcome to On the Origin of Battlemechs Podcast, episode 52, the Firestarter, Part B. I am your host, Brent Stewart McKee. My co-hosts today are...
I'm Joshua.
And I'm Chandler.
And, of course, today we are talking about the Firestarter, finishing up the week of Firestarter, and it remains a 35-tonner because we, again, are just talking about the actual standard Firestarter, not the Omni-Mech. It will get its own episode. We'll pick up right where we left off with the FS9-P in 3064. And this guy has the movement profile of 696. And then, as mentioned in the previous episode, it's got the SRMs instead of the rocket launchers. So it's got a Flamer SRM-2 and a small laser in the right torso, same in the left torso, and then it's got the Flamer and medium laser in each of the arms. It has the 10 double heat sinks, and it pays for all of that with adding some endo steel.
And shaving half a ton of armor.
This guy is produced by the Circinian Federation, and they always load those two SRM-2s with Inferno rounds, because Inferno rounds, when 4 flamers, aren't enough.
Mm-hmm. When you really want to max out that 15 total heat, you can add to another mech.
Otherwise known as some very nice people who do not commit war crimes.
The nice thing about the Infernos when you're trying to manipulate heat is SRMs have a range of 9 hexes. That's their long range. So Flamers having a long range of 3 hexes, your SRM2s with Inferno rounds can actually reach more of the board at any given point, even if they don't do quite as much heat damage.
Mm-hmm. But those SRMs do line up nicely with the medium lasers, so giving it a little bit more reach is not anything to lament, because the only other model we've seen that has any sort of long-range capabilities is that one with the large laser, which was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if there was anything I'd change about this guy, it would be drop a Flamer to add a second ton of SRM2 ammo so that you can...
alternate?
Yeah, just give it a little more flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a solid Firestarter side grade.
Mm-hmm. Parallel design.
Yeah. This thing will murder your scout mix.
Oh yeah. This guy's got a battle value of 775 and a point value of 24. We then come to the B, seen in 3070. This guy's got a flamer in the center torso, and he also has the afterburner flamer in the center torso we saw in the previous models, so a rear-mounted center torso flamer. It also has improved C3, an ER medium laser, and a flamer. The flamer is in the left arm, the ER medium laser is in the right arm, and the improved C3 is in the left torso. It has endo steel and light ferro, and 10 single heat sinks, because, need to capitalize on those slots.
So by now, long-term listeners might have realized that due to improved C3, the B on this FS9-B stands for Blake.
Mm-hmm. And of course, this was produced on Coventry when they seized the facilities.
I think this shows very much how heavy improved C3 computers are. Like, compare the B to any of the other Firestarters, and it has endosteel and a light engine, and its weapons loadout is a lot slimmer than the others. Granted, it does jump 8 compared to jumping 6, but still.
Yes, the movement profile is 698, so getting those improved jump jets definitely helps move a little bit there.
Yeah, and getting up from 6 in your +2 to over that +7 sweet spot, such a big deal for a light mech that wants to avoid getting hit.
Mm-hmm. Also definitely helps close so you can use those flamers, because heavy woods isn't going to stop you with a jump of 8. So this guy's got a battle value of 668 and a point value of 20. We then come to the FS9-81X in 3074. This guy is from the Experimentals Corporation, and I absolutely love this art. This art is great. I want this Firestarter art on everything. I would love a mini of this guy. He's great. It looks so good.
This one I feel like definitely inspired the MechWarrior Online art. It's very similar in style, like extreme.
For those fans of ours who can't see what we're talking about through this audio medium, this Firestarter in many ways goes back to the original technical readout art with more three-dimensionality to its torso and legs, but its helmet now has it's more three-dimensional as well, and it looks like a badass helmet, like something you'd see in Star Wars.
Yeah, like it looks like a futuristic marine helmet.
That's what it is. It's Star Wars Episode 1, Phantom Menace, the Naboo pilot helmets.
Oh, okay.
That's what this Firestarter's wearing.
Well, it looks better here than it did there. Nothing looked good in that movie.
Now this is pod racing.
Hey, I enjoyed that movie.
I enjoyed it. It has issues. It is a thing that exists, and I don't disparage people enjoying it. Any 3D renders from that era does not look good. Like, okay, complete soapbox digression. Jurassic Park, the first one, still looks amazing because they used 3 things: real cameras, real light, and real props. That's why it looks amazing to this day. And 3D, like, it will look good, but it always ages, and the best way to sidestep that issue is to stylize it. If you look back at things like the Lord of the Rings battles on an HD TV, they don't upscale well.
So going back to the Firestarter art,
Yes.
his left arm
Back to your
Brent slides soapbox into the corner.
has the traditional flamer fuel pods wrapped around the shoulder. The right arm, though, has a completely new structure with an armored pauldron going down into its weapon.
Yeah, the other arm looks good. I mean, it loses that asymmetrical look, which is nice in a lot of things, but I think this looks even better. Like, it pops. Also, in the art, it's...
it gains an asymmetrical look?
Yes, it gains an asymmetrical... Sorry.
Somebody plugged Brent in backwards.
Yep. The other thing about the art is it's in action pose, it's jumping, it's clearly moving and doing things, and it looks very dynamic, and it shows off the geometry of the body quite well by doing that. You get to see the inside of one of the legs, you get to see the outside of the other, you get a nice perspective on the torso, you get to see all the little lips and parts of the armor jutting out in the little bits of directions. It looks really good.
that it do.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. And unfortunately, as much as I like this guy, I don't think I'd want to drive it because it keeps that Firestarter movement profile, 696. It's got 3 flamers, the standard front and rear center torso flamer, and a flamer in the left arm. It's also got a medium X-pulse laser in the left arm, matched with a medium X-pulse laser in the right arm. And then in the right arm, it also has a plasma rifle. So making up for the loss of a flamer by stuffing a plasma rifle in there, which seems like a really good buy to me.
Oh, yeah.
20 heat sinks to deal with all the heat, but it's got a double XL engine in order to make room for all of that.
Just don't get shot.
Yeah, no. This thing is a nice piece of kit, and canonically 3 of them were built, and they had some issues with the arm assembly, considering the plasma rifles were captured tech from the Capellans, and they were still in the process of manufacturing their own and reverse engineering them, but it is really neat. The fluff also says that this mech signals that they are closer to standardizing the medium X pulse lasers than previously thought, so moving it from experimental to advanced, hopefully soon.
Yeah, I mean, this is straight up a test bed for learning how to use plasma rifles before production on home-built plasma rifles was developed.
But I absolutely love the plasma rifle on the Firestarter. I think it is a logical upgrade, and it also extends the range, so it checks off 2 boxes in my book.
Oh yeah, it's a great upgrade.
And hey, it's a plasma rifle. Can't go wrong. It doesn't explode. Its ammo doesn't explode. Like, what else do you need?
So, of course, because this is experimental tech, we have a jump in the battle value. We go up to 1065, and it's got a point value of 21. We then come to the 2S in 3075. This guy has the traditional movement profile of 696. It's got the 2 flamers in the center torso, one sticking out the back. It's got the small laser in the right torso. In the left torso, it has an AMS and Beagle active probe. In the right arm, it's got an ER medium laser and a flamer, and same in the left arm. It has 10 double heat sinks and endo steel and light ferro to help pay for that tonnage.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a straight upgrade of the S, just with fancier tech.
Mm-hmm.
Bit more expensive to upkeep. You do get a little bit more armor.
I feel like I've seen this one already.
Well, the S1 was remarkably similar.
The S was literally the same thing.
I mean, it's really just, ER medium laser instead of medium lasers, and then light ferro instead of standard armor?
Pretty much. And I'm going to guess you're going to get a feeling of deja vu again with our next model. But the S2 has a battle value of 842 and a point value of 24. And then we have the S3, which is just the same, except it swaps out the Beagle active probe for the Guardian ECM. So this is the upgrade of the S1.
So we've got the S evens and the S odds.
Pretty much.
Odds have ECM, evens have probes, and the 2 and 3 get ER medium lasers and ferro.
Light ferro.
Yep.
Light ferro, yes.
Mm-hmm. But look at the bright side. You can now sport a lance of Firestarter S, S1, S2, and S3. No repeats.
Yes, but you're still restricted to if we're talking about the 350 for Alpha Strike, you're still restricted by the rule of 2. You can't have more than 2 FS9s.
Mm-hmm. I was just referring back to when Chandler said he wanted a lance of 2 of each, of the S and the S1.
Ah, my bad.
No worries. It is a natural question.
I can get one of each. I can get a full set.
So, of course, this guy was also seen in 3075. He's got a battle value of 908 and a point value of 23. We then hop forward in time about 25 years to 3101 with the M2. Now, this guy has funky art. This is the Dark Age art, which has... The helmet, it has lips. I don't know how else to say it. The cockpit has lips.
See, I don't see the lips. I see a Cylon. An old school Cylon.
That's totally fair.
A Cylon head. It's true. It also has gas tanks on the arms.
Mm-hmm. Big honkin' boys.
Yes, we know we're using the reactor to supply the flamer fuel, but for some reason we still have massive flamer tanks with big rubber hoses.
So this guy's got a movement profile of 696. It's got a ER medium laser in the head. It's got 3 flamers in the right arm and 3 flamers in the left arm. It's got 11 double heat sinks and endo steel and a standard engine. So... got that survivability, which is always good. Goes back up in armor to its more medium contemporaries, which is nice because those S's were a little light for my taste, but there you go.
This thing will light you, the guy next to you, and then the rest of your platoon on fire all at once.
Mm-hmm. 6 flamers is a lot.
Yes. And this M2 was developed to be a cheap export for the mercenary market during the late Republic period.
Dark Ages, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, it's the late Republic period.
Yeah. The codification of that era is a little difficult considering how little of it we actually saw.
I mean, if you need to hire a mercenary to stomp on protesters, you'd want to sell them one of these.
Sorry, this was the early Republic period.
But, at what cost?
Definitely a fashionable one.
Nah.
I think this one is a load of... I can see why it's a cheap export.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is what you pick up because it's available and you're a little light on cash. You know, this is not something you are saving up for. This is probably something you're going to face across the field as opposed to taking it yourself, especially in a
campaign.
Campaign, yes. Sorry, I was blanking on what's the term for the equivalent dungeon master if there's a campaign.
Game master.
Game master.
Game master, right? Anyway, moving on.
Yeah. I mean, the most. It's 3101. It's the late Republic period, and the most high-tech thing in this is its endo steel and an ER medium laser.
Yeah.
This guy's probably cheaper C-bill wise than the original H. 3.2 million C-bills versus... No, it manages to just... It's 200,000 C-bills more expensive than an FS9H.
I guess double heat
So
sinks.
not much.
Yeah.
Endosteel, it adds up.
I mean, you wouldn't want to pilot it.
So this guy's got a battle value of 751 and a point value of 23. We then come to the M3 in 3104, and this guy has a movement profile of 696, but it can also run 12 if it has its mask active. It's got the ER medium laser in the head, it's got a tag system in the right torso, 3 flamers in the right arm, and 1 ER small laser in the left arm. It's got 10 double heat sinks, and still has that endosteel to help pay for all that weight.
Solid upgrade on the M2.
This is... If you have to take an M series, you pick an M3 over an M2 every day, because at least you have a tag and you can go 12, so you can be more useful than 6 flamers.
Oh yes, that 12 lets you close, and if you're working with a missile boat, that tag is going to help quite a bit.
You do have max armor in the M3 as well, which is nice. So you're not going to die quite as easily as you could.
So this guy's got a battle value of 866 and a point value of 30. We come to the last Firestarter of our episode, the M4 in 3109. This guy keeps that max armor, which is nice to see. It's got a movement profile of 696. It's got 3 flamers in the right arm, and it has 1 rotary AC2 in the left arm. It has endosteel, an XL engine, and 10 double heat sinks.
Unfortunately, that rotary 2 only has 1 ton of ammo.
Yeah, so you could burn through it pretty quickly.
Burn.
You got some burners for backup, though, so could be worse.
Yeah, this is definitely interesting. It's not a terrible design, but it's definitely not something I would have come up with.
Yeah, this feels like it's supposed to be in some sort of fire support role. Yeah, that rotary AC2 is a fairly long range and can put out a decent amount of damage if you spin it up. My bet they came up with this in order to minimize the variation in miniatures. The art has the 3 flamers kind of clustered together in this little triangle.
Yeah.
Almost looks like a Gatling gun already.
Absolutely.
Now you make one of them a Gatling gun, and if a player wants to make their miniature look accurate, all they really have to do is cut the fuel tank and hose off one side, off of the left side specifically, and then, hey, it's the Rack 2 version.
There you go. I mean, you probably just need to cut the fuel line and add maybe a little bit of spurring or something, and then you got the ammo feed going to it, so it'll, that's your ammo drum.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be accurate because the ammo's in the left torso, but it looked cool.
Yeah.
And, they fudged things art-wise between the torso and the arm so much, it doesn't really matter.
I also wouldn't be surprised if this is kind of like a catch-all model that they swept a couple WizKids Hero Click style mechs into, to streamline things, because as we've seen in the past, some of their designs didn't quite work with the previous system.
Makes sense.
Oh, no, yeah, the M series is all click tech, I'm pretty sure.
Or at least inspired by it.
Or like the M2 is definitely click tech. Like I'm looking at a record sheet from click tech for it.
There you go. So this guy's got a battle value of 798 and a point value of 22.
So you remember in the previous episode, Brent, when you mentioned the Capellan version?
Yes, the fabled Capellan version that doesn't actually exist.
Yes.
But war crimes.
Well, I think we found it, and it's the M2.
Yeah.
Because in the Victoria War, according to the TRO 3145, a unit of Firestarters, Thompson's Firestarters, burned their way through the Trellis Electronics factory, burning the workers along with their machines.
Oof.
And they were in the employ of House Kamada, a warrior house of the Capellan Confederation. So so there's your Capellan Firestarters committing war crimes. We found him.
Ladies and gentlemen, we found them.
We knew they were there, we just didn't have to look too hard. For pilot profiles today, we are going to start off with Adept Cornelius Dante Jones, a convicted arsonist who avoided justice by joining the Word of Blake mortuary unit, whose job it is to clean up, air quotes, the battlefield and ready it for redevelopment.
I guess that's a...
You all know enough of history that I don't have to spell it out for you.
I don't like this person.
There's a difference between intentionally started wildfires in order to clean out underbrush and intentionally started people fires to clean out the suburbia.
Yeah. After joining, he was able to hone his skills to the point of a surgeon with a scalpel, and thus is now able to set fires to buildings effectively and efficiently. So really backing up what we said last episode about Firestarter pilots, especially notable ones being pyros, sociopaths, and war criminals.
Yeah, we're just quadrupling down on that at this point.
It's almost a meme at this point.
This Dante's a bad apple.
This list of notable psychopathic Firestarter pilots is incomplete. You can assist by expanding it.
No, do not expand it.
Next up, I'm going to throw over to Chandler.
Our next pilot is Rickard Novacat, who was born the 9th of August, 3098. We know his birth date. Thank you, ClickTech. You did one good thing. You gave us a birthday. He had orange hair and brown eyes. Rickard Novacat was part of the Spirit Cats faction, which was the enclave of Nova Cats within the Republic Sphere. And then, of course, when the Republic went to hell after the HPG network collapsed, he looked for a new home for what would become known as the Spirit Cats. This would lead him all the way over to Free Worlds League space, where he would help the Free Worlds League by taking back the planet of Merrick.
Bit of a notable one.
Yeah, it's a slightly important planet. During this fight, he would challenge the 4th Regular Hussars commander, Colonel Juliette Meja, to a duel. She, of course, ignored the challenge because she is a inner sphere person, and ordered her entire lance to mass their fire on his little tiny Firestarter. His mech was shot down, but he miraculously survived. This dishonorable attack made his unit, the Shiva Keshik, which he was the galaxy commander of, attack with unbridled ferocity, which would send them into retreat. And then after the Regulan reinforcements were intercepted in space by the Sea Foxes, Rickard would extend Hagara to the remaining invaders, letting them return to Regulus. After his mech was destroyed, it is unclear whether he kept a Firestarter or not, but he is also known as a Shadowhawk 2C pilot, so it's very possible he did not pick it up again. But while he did pilot a Firestarter, it was named Soulbearer, since it was not a clan tech version. It was actually an inner sphere mech that had served with many different forces before he ended up getting his mitts on it, as you would say. Paws, I guess, since he's a spirit cat.
Makes sense. Yeah, so definitely a machine with some pedigree.
Yes.
And history.
Pedigree of history.
Wonder how many pilots carved their names into the cockpit of that Firestarter.
At least 2.
I was just thinking of the Grasshopper anthology.
Yeah. For our data dive today, we are going to continue to look at the Lyran Commonwealth in part 4 of their story. At the same time that Operation Prometheus and then the frantic retooling was taking place, a brutal and bloodthirsty general was rising along the Commonwealth and Free World League border. The General Garlac Merrick started by capturing Alua, Australia, and Bella 1. He was a man who viewed the Ares Convention as a farce, and all who bound themselves to it worthy of contempt. The planet's population was an enemy combatant until proven otherwise, and he waged methodical and bloody campaigns, relying heavily on artillery to shell defensive positions and cities into submission, or to break them open for his armor. The conquest of Alua, Australia took 6 months, and Bella 1 only 5. The casualties were astronomical when compared to battles fought with the now adopted Ares Convention. Soon the population along the border hated and feared the general, and he was bestowed the title of the Bloodthirsty Giant by the media. After his first 2 successes, he set his sights on a 3rd planet, the manufacturing planet of Lorik. There, the Free World League forces encountered stiffer than expected resistance. He was able to establish a beachhead, but operations dragged on for 3 years with little to show for it. During this time, frustrated with the lack of progress, the general committed and authorized many atrocities. The planet of Lorik was quickly starting to look like a second Tintival. When the beginning of 2459 approached, the Lorik facilities finished retooling. When the general began his next operation to take Lorik's southern continent, it began as all his operations would. Once the operation started, the general started to receive reports of giant figures striding the field of battle like gods of myth and legend. He dismissed these reports as hyperbole and influenced by adrenaline and imagination. Shortly after dawn broke, he found that his troops were in fact not being poetic, and the Lyrans now fielded Mackies of their own. the general was not dissuaded and ordered a full artillery barrage and armor to advance and take down these new machines. The field of battle erupted into chaos with the strike. What was once a beautiful natural landscape was transformed into a maelstrom of dirt, shrapnel, and flames. The barrage lasted for several minutes that stretched into an eternity for those observing. As the general watched, he believed he had done it, that nothing could have survived the hell on Lorik that he had created. But when the chaos finally subsided, the general's forces were in complete disorder or destroyed, and only a single battlemech had fallen. The new armor made the Lyran machines impervious to much of the general's arsenal. By noon, in the blistering heat of combat, the Lyran commander signaled for the surrender of the general and his forces. The bloodthirsty giant replied that death would take him before the Lyrans put a hand on him. He was correct in the fact that no Lyrans ever touched him alive, but a Maquis foot would crush the general's command vehicle.
The Commonwealth had explosive reactive armor a few hundred years before its official date if they were able to just shrug off an artillery bombardment.
Well, they're anti-personnel shells, so...
Also, when you read the source material for the Maquis development and its research, you find that its armor composition and design actually made it much stronger than previous designs, and so in the test it had that, direct hit on its, I think it was left knee that did nothing.
Yeah, that's the thing when you start putting in that much armor, it just shrugs off stuff that your previous generation of equipment would have died from.
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about it back at the beginning when we did the Maquis episode. It literally has like 4 times the armor of comparable battle tanks.
It is a walking turret.
It is a big boy.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're telling me is the Lyran Commonwealth killed a Free Worlds League general, captain general, with a hegemony-designed mech. Fair and hegemony. We would have won fair and square if it wasn't for your fancy mech.
Hey, they stole it fair and square.
That's true. Dang it.
The fallout and proliferation. With these new machines the Lyrans now fielded, it confirmed what some had suspected, that the accident was not an accident but a raid. The Terran hegemony obviously was furious and immediately imposed economic sanctions and banned the sale of high-grade technology to the Lyran Commonwealth. But all knew deep down that the damage had already been done. The Terran hegemony no longer was the undisputed military power of the Inner Sphere. We must also note that the speed at which the Lyran technicians retooled meant that the Lyran Commonwealth Maquis was inferior to that of the Terran hegemony's Maquis, but only under close inspection. The Draconis Combine, ever a military powerhouse, refused to be subjected to an uneven footing on the battlefield. They attempted many times in many different ways to gain access to the Terran hegemony Hesperus II facility, thinking that the shell was now cracked and exposed. The Draconis Combine efforts were hamstrung by the fact that internal purges were happening regularly, and eventually resorted to a overt raid only to have the Death Team sent killed by the towering avatars of destruction.
Denied.
Yep.
Get wrecked. GG no re.
One auspicious internal security force agent who was loyal to his country and people could see a solution, but one that required sacrifice. He led a desk team to Coventry, deep in Lyran space. There he took the specs for the Lyran Maquis program instead of from the Terran hegemony Hesperus II facility. The raid was successful, and soon the Draconis Combine had their own battlemech program. Shortly after that, a safe operation infiltrated a manufacturing company, securing much technical information and burning a high-level technician, who was then recruited under duress for the Free World League mech program. The Archon was furious with his technological edge rapidly disappearing, knowing it was only a matter of time before the Free World League and the Draconis Combine had their own mechs up and running. He pressed the military to use the advantage while they had it to its greatest effect. The Archon plans were ambitious, to say the least. It would be known as the Long March, a name that carries a pedigree with it. Campaigns to retake many, if not all, of the worlds the Lyran Commonwealth had lost were undertaken. The Draconis Combine campaign drove towards St. John and scooped up everything in its wake. The Free World League campaign pressed to move the border back to its previous place. This is where we'll leave off today, with the first steps of the Long March.
The Long March.
You know, the last time someone did a long march, it ended up with like 80 million dead.
Yep.
So they're just going for a nice hike, essentially, is what you're telling me.
Just a nice saunter up and down the hillside. You won't even need a canteen, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Our sources for today are Sarna, Battletech Battlemech Manual, Master Unit List, Succession Wars TRO and RS, 3050 Upgrades TRO, Record Sheets 3050 Inner Sphere Unabridged, Experimental Tech Corporations, TRO 3145, Record Sheets 3145 Unabridged, Prometheus Unbound, Fall Down 7 times, Get Up 8, A Dish Served Cold, and the Sourcebook House Steiner.
I used the WizKids dossier on Rickard Novacat from what is popularly known as ClickTech.
This podcast is made possible by our supporters on patreon.com/on the Origin of Battlemechs, link in the description. Our social media on Twitter is at Origin of Mechs. We also have a community Discord, the Armory of Ouroboros, link in the description. You can email us at ontheoriginofbattlemechs@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, please leave a review on your platform of consumption, tell your friends about us, and share on your community platform of choice. Special thanks to my friend Laura for the intro and outro. Class dismissed. Everybody have a great day.
Peace out, Mech Warriors.
Stay safe out there.
Module complete. System standby. Would you like to load the next module?
Pickled Toyama, before we begin, I must remind you of my distaste for you. Your brother Craig is the most favored brother.
Now, is there going to be a Toyama head that will swap in and out on the
No, I
YouTubes?
I think that's a joke too far.
It would be funny, though, just if he randomly shows up from time to time and see how many fans notice.
That would be quite funny.